The King Who Forgot, written by Ballinger and illustrated by Shepard. There once was a kingdom, at peace with no sadness in sight. A beautiful land ran by a suitable man, a father to his son and a husband to his wife. Respected by all, his laws were fair. Generous, caring, and calm, he always shared. There was no war, no hate, nor violence or lies. His castle was great, and the village was vibrant and alive. There was a royal king with his loyal queen, loved by the people both young and old. There was peace in their hearts, no darkness was seen. Anyone from anywhere and everyone from everywhere could come and go. The king, so honest and proud, polished his crown till it shimmered in the sun. Fields were plowed, there was honey from bees, milk from cows, and every day everyone's jobs were done. Gardens full of girls growing roses, lilies, and tulips, as bashful boys brought them butterflies and caterpillars as cute gifts. The scene was exquisite, like a dreamy exhibit, and the queen would visit her garden daily. It seemed so mystic, so clean and perfect, serene and with purpose she watered her daisies. The knights had no more reasons to fight. It was like everything was okay. All 4 seasons were bright, from winter, spring, summer, till fall came. The prince would play with his friends all day, Monday to Sunday, all the same. But one day, in the kingdom that the king had made, something changed, something happened, something strange. The king was so utterly satisfied and overly gratified while pondering thoughts that he started to walk. He passed fountains and vast mountains while wandering off. Dragonflies would pass him by, flapping fiercely for him to go back. Even dandelions would try and get his attention, but they had no hands, so they had no map. In his own little world, he kept walking along, walking over the hills, clover fields, around the puddles and ponds. Even the fishermen would whisper when they saw the king go. They asked each other, "Where would the king go? Does the king not know?" Farther and farther he traveled on, just walking and talking to himself. The sun was bright like 1,000 lights, but he lost the feeling of how awesome it felt. He walked and thought some more about all the things unknown. So many thoughts, so much thinking as he just wandered on alone. There was a place called the Forgotten Forest, far beyond the fields, the rivers, and the lakes, far past the farms, the creeks, and the banks, where someone's memory was lost and misplaced. A person would seem fine, but once one step past the tree line, something strange would occur. Their memory, even those memories worth remembering, became a blur, and all the animals, humans, and even the plants could not remember who they were. The legend stated that a not-so-good hooded man stood by the rusty gates with a wooden cane in his hand. He had a dusty old clock that had stopped, with no way of knowing the time. There he stood by the scary woods, waiting, showing his sign. The sign was made of wood, and scratched in it read this: "Welcome to the Forgotten Forest. Once you walk in, you will forget." But the king was so brave, he once slept in a cold cave. See, he wasn't afraid to cross the edge. He had fought monsters and caught lobsters. With great diligence, he had saved villages, so he wasn't scared of what the sign said. He could fight better than an ox, more clever than a fox, as quick as a bat and as slick as a cat. He could jump like a frog and hunt like a dog. He could bite like a shark, but as light as a lark. Unfortunately, so full of pride, the king crossed that line and walked inside that forgotten forest, full of friends, forgetful family, and unfamiliar fellows who failed to figure out who they formerly were and became frozen, fearful, and lost in time. The forest stayed gray, rainy and gloomy, only lit by the scary moon. Everyone there was complaining, lonely and moody, and so would be the king very, very soon. There's no happiness where there's sadness and despair, so minutes just turned to hours. The people there gave evil stares, stepping on the ferns and flowers. No trumpets played, no cool breeze, no puppets made, just cruel trees. And as hours passed in the hourglass, everyone suddenly forgot their dreams. The king saw a mean mermaid who forgot her name and couldn't remember how to swim. A werewolf with hairy hooves who couldn't remember where he's been. The forest was full. Suitors and actors, a barber, a teacher, a tutor, a farmer, a jester, and a preacher. The king saw ogres, snakes, orcs, dwarfs, tigers, fairies, and trolls. A warlock without a robe, a hairy beast with a scary nose, a witch with no broom, and a unicorn wearing clothes. A weeping lion, a sleeping giant, and a pirate with no boat. There was a dreary dragon, clearly sad when he couldn't fly like he did before. There were glimmering knights, shivering frightened by the slightest little noise. The king saw a mad scientist on the back of a green dinosaur, a sad psychiatrist walking with a mean Labrador, a not-so-elegant elephant playing cards with an old pelican, a rude, sneaky raccoon stealing food from a sleepy baboon, a sluggish sloth getting chased by a chubby hawk. There was a crazy beagle running from a lazy eagle. There were stinky skunks and freaky bugs, ugly ducks, and even a baby seagull. The king even saw a wizard entangled in his own spell and a lizard tangled in his own tail. He saw a pretty Pegasus joking and poking fun of a pudgy possum while people were scared to pet and play with the funny dolphin. There was a pair of uncaring bears and a dumb donkey, even a woodchuck with not so good luck, and a hairless monkey. The king had seen enough, but it was too late. The king forgot who he was. While the king forgot the things he'd lost, back home, the kingdom had gotten out of hand. The queen was sort of shy. The son was bored inside of the castle, while outside things became unorganized and bland. No work was done. The sun was dim. The crops decayed and laid there dead. Every wish delayed, every citizen afraid, while the roses wilted and tilted their heads. The more distant the king strayed, the worse the city became. No milk from cows, no chickens laid eggs, all the beauty just withered away. Depressed, dismal, and desperate due to the disappointing disappearance, family and friends decided to devise a plan to retrieve the king from the forest. Aboard horses and wheeled chariots, they wielded swords, shields, and lariats. The queen and company headed out on a mission to remind the king who he was. They took that dreaded route. On the first day, his friend came. He explained to the king that the people needed a helpful hero and a strong leader. But he replied by holding up a sign reading, "I am sorry, but I am neither." On the second day, the queen decided to try. But again, the king denied, using another sign that read, "Sorry, but I have no reason to leave here." She thought for sure she could talk and cure the king into his self. She reminded him of his favorite color and the first day they met, the first place that they kissed on the first date they had, the places they used to fish and all the fun they used to have. She tried and cried and tried some more to remind him of the times, but nothing seemed to work, nothing at all. The king just held the sign. As the sun set on the third day, the son said, "We all miss you, Dad, and wish you had never left your throne. Meanwhile, the king smiled, as if he had never left home. Through his son he saw himself, and he reminded him of joy, remembrance of a time when he himself was just a boy. And just like that, the king was back. The once cold nights turned glowing and bright, reunited with his knights as the sun smiled, showing its light. The grass was greener, now the cows could go eat. The shepherds herded their sheep as the workers plowed, sowed, and reaped. It was an amazing, magical thing, the return of the prominent king. It seemed the stars were aligned and all the monuments gleamed. It wasn't so pretty when those dark clouds had covered the city, but now the king had finally returned. To kids playing hopscotch, stages with lots of props, farmers chopping crops, and students in school ready to learn. See, sometimes even a king gets lost or forgets who he really was. Sometimes it just takes to be reminded about where you're from with a little love. The end.